Hey everyone, welcome back and welcome to Crime Time with Shay. Today is episode 2, and as you guys saw, we will be doing a missing persons case today. Now, everything that I will be using today will be listed in the description box below. I will not mention it in the story because I want to get straight into the case, but like I said, I'm going to go ahead and mention everything below. So a lot of things intrigue me about like murders and mysteries and the missing and everything in between. You guys know that. I told you guys that before. But when it comes to a solved murder, we all know that we have a beginning, middle, and an end. We know what happened, we know who it happened to, and we know who did it. Case closed. But when it comes to the missing, it's like there's a crime, but there's no ending. There's just nothing. Like the first episode, you guys, this is me telling you the story in my perspective, the way I think. I will be asking you guys some questions, so of course I want to know what you guys think in the comment box below. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. In my opinion, disappearances just don't happen. We just don't know what happened. And disappearances don't just happen to that particular person. They happen to the families of that person. So this story takes place in 1998. It is about a girl named Suzanne Lyall. She was a 19-year-old college student, and all of her friends and her family and her boyfriend called her Susie. So for the rest of this video, I'm also going to go ahead and call her Susie. So Susie loved anything and everything about computers. She can basically build one from scratch, which in 1998, I don't think there was like a lot of stuff about building computers as there is now. But I mean, she's like super, super smart. While she was attending college, she was actually studying computer science, which, by the way, you guys, my husband studies computer information technology, and I guess it's like kind of like the same thing because I asked him. But that stuff looks super hard. Like I tried to help him with his homework, no go. Anyways, side tangent. So she attended a different school for about 2 semesters, and I'm sorry, you guys, I couldn't find out what college that was, but she did end up transferring to SUNY Albany, which it's spelled SUNY, and that stands for State University of New York. And she said that she ended up transferring because everything at her first college was basically just too easy, and she like knew everything that they were talking about. So she kind of like basically could teach the class. Like I said, you guys, she was like super smart. When she was in high school, she was involved in an online community as well as a computer club. Now, her parents were really sketched out about this, and honestly, you guys, I can totally understand because I don't think whether it's like 1999 or like right now, parents would be kind of sketched out about like their kids being an online community. And rightfully so, because the internet is way different than it is back here in the 90s, but I'm glad that their parents were at least aware of what was going on. So her dad actually ended up going to her first meetings with her with this like computer club, and actually, you guys, they were actually normal people, and he had like nothing to worry about. So they were all computer people enjoying computer stuff. So of course she ended up meeting the president of the group, which, by the way, you guys, spoiler alert, it ended up being Richard, aka her like boyfriend. So he was instantly drawn to Susie, but she just recently had just gotten out like a relationship at that time when she was like 16 years old. So she was like a little like standoffish and kind of like just not interested, just because like, hello, you just got out of a relationship and don't want to jump into another one. But he was being persistent. He was being polite. Wasn't like too pushy or anything at first. Like I said, not at first. But keep that in mind because I will mention something later that'll make you probably think something else. Because me being persistent can also be pushy. Anyways, they did end up getting together, and they were together all throughout her high school career and straight into college. Now, they did have about like 1 or 2 breakups here and there, but nothing too serious. They ended up always getting back together. But the thing is, like, no one knew why and when that happened. Friends and family weren't really sure. Now, her parents did mention that she wrote poetry, and a lot of her poetry ended up questioning things about like the world and life and herself in the place in the world. So it was like really deep, and it just makes me think like no one really knew what she was thinking. But I mean, a person who writes poetry and it's not something that's like, oh, butterflies and flowers, like, to me, that's not a bad thing. Poetry can be anything. So people started questioning if something was wrong with her or she was like depressed. But like I mean, she was a teenager, and her questioning about the world and her place in it is kind of normal because you're conditioned to think, okay, after high school, I go to college, I get a career, I get married, I get kids. But some people's train of thought, it doesn't have to be that way. So her questioning things about like the world and her place in it, I think was actually pretty normal. Like I said, we're conditioned to think we're supposed to go to college and supposed to get a career. But I mean, a lot of things in life can also lead you different paths. And her writing poetry that was probably her trying to find her path. She never showed signs of depression. So to me, like I said, she was just a teenager writing poetry, trying to express herself. People were saying that she did enjoy her new school and everything was going good so far and she loved all her classes. Now, in 1998, when she was going to SUNY, she was preparing for midterms. So, of course, that comes with stress. And, of course, I know the feeling. If you guys went to college before and had to go through, like, midterms and finals, that can be stressful if you're taking more than one class. Like me, for example, I always took 3 to 4 classes. So, midterms are literally back to back. It's hectic and it's hella stressful. So, totally understandable. On March 3rd, Richard calls her parents and asked, hey, have you seen Susie, or did you know Susie was missing? And of course, like me, my train of thought as soon as I like read this and heard this, because I heard podcasts and of course also like TV shows on her case, I was like, WTF, what do you mean, and how long did you wait to tell us? And he was like, I've been trying to reach her for like ever and a day since like aka last night. But he hasn't gotten any response. He says that she calls him every time she gets off of work, but last night she didn't call at all. So obviously this throws the parents into like a panic frenzy. Her dad ends up calling the campus police so they can go ahead and check on her dorm room. Now I was thinking, like, if you're 10 minutes away, Richard, why didn't you call the campus police if you were trying to reach her for XYZ amount of time? Or why didn't you just go check in the dorm room? Like, since you were, like I said, 10 minutes away. That's just me, the way I'm thinking. But anyways, so the campus police ended up notifying the RA to go look in the dorm, because the RA is the one who has, like, the extra keys and stuff to every dorm room. But there was nothing out of place. Nothing was disturbed. Everything looked like as if a college student would leave it. Like, there was books here and there, and, like, they were heading out. Like I said, nothing was missing and nothing was out of sorts. Now, the campus police are not as worried as her parents are. They're just thinking, hey, she's 19. She didn't call. I think by this time was about 12 hours. There's nothing to be worried about as their train of thought. But, I mean, her family was like, no, something is off. And they just kept pressing for answers. Now, why the campus police didn't think that was kind of weird of her not communicating with her loved ones within the 12-hour time span, I don't know. It's weird because, like, for me, I talk to my nail besties, like, every other hour. Not even, like, every hour. I talk to my husband, like, every hour. I even text my sister, like, every day. I text my mom every day. Like, I'm always in communication with somebody. So I would think that even in 1998, Susie would still be communicating with somebody because, like Richard said, when she gets off of work, she calls him to let him know. So, I don't know. I just feel like the campus police were just, like, kind of laxy-daisy about it, and that was kind of annoying. Now, the manager on shift did ended up leaving before her shift was over, but by the time that the night supervisor shift ended up coming in, he also said that nothing was off, like, from Susie or anything like that, but he did ended up seeing Susie leave the back way of the mall. Now, if you guys never work like retail or at like the mall or anything like that, there is like an alleyway kind of thing behind all the stores where you can get through the mall kind of quicker and faster. But it's like so freaking creepy, you guys. Like, I don't know, it just never feels safe, and like someone's always behind you. So when I worked at the mall, I was like literally booking it through the alleyway. Now, they know that nothing happened to her there at the mall because when they talk to the bus driver, you know, the one that drops everybody off like campus or anything, he did say that he did pick her up and did drop her off. Now, different sources that I got from either say that she got dropped off at 9:20 or was picked up at 9:20. Either way, 9:20 is really relevant. But the thing is, like, where did she go after she got off? The driver couldn't remember, like, even if she got off at the campus bus stop, but does know that she did get off before he got to the downtown bus stop. So the campus police just basically assumed that she did get off at the campus bus stop, but making assumptions, you guys, can be really dangerous. Now, they did have a eyewitness see her get off the bus, like at the campus bus stop, I guess, but they didn't pay attention to what direction she goes to. And honestly, you guys, I don't blame her. I mean, if it was me, I probably wouldn't pay attention either, let's be honest. The campus police ended up starting to, like, question also her roommates and suite mates, and they can also verify that whatever happened to Susie happened before she could even get to her dorm room, because her access card was never used. Now, you guys, when you're in college and you have an access card to, like, get into, like, dorm rooms and stuff like that, and this also was, like, in the military, when you have, like, cards to get into your room, they can access those records of how many times and when those cards were used. So let's just play devil's advocate really quick. Now, let's just say someone's in front of me and they ended up using their card and I slide in behind them. Yes, that could have been a possibility. But all of the roommates said that Susie had these, like, big old keychain with keys on it, and, like, and every time she would come through the hallway, it would rattle, and they know that that was Susie. And they all said that they didn't hear her keys come through. Now, I know that's not really, like, a big clue of, like, was she there or was she not? But when you have roommates and you're kind of close quarters to them, and they can, like know who you are by your keys, like, that's very significant. You know what I mean? Now, they also know that Susie never even made it to her room, because if on March 2nd, that night, Richard kept calling her. So her phone was going off the wall that night, and all of her roommates can hear it. And they also said that it never got picked up. It just kept ringing and ringing and ringing. Now, they couldn't remember when it stopped ringing, but they do remember it just going off all night. So that just makes me question, what happened to when she got off the bus and her not making it to the room? That little window of time, what happened to Susie? So as her dad and the campus police are still searching for Susie, her mom said that there was no calls she ever got at the home. So that's when she decided to call Susie's bank, which, hello, that's freaking genius. What she found out was that there was $120 in her checkings, which there always was. Susie kept it that way. But that there was a withdrawal of $20 at an ATM from across the street where the bus stop was, like where she entered when she got off of work. But there was also another $20 withdrawal inside of the mall. Now, why would you make two separate withdrawals if you knew you're going to need $40 to begin with? Like, to me, that just seems kind of weird. I don't know. I just thought that was kind of weird. Now, after that, while she's on the phone with the teller's like, oh, wait a minute. There literally just was another withdrawal on your daughter's account. Like, you guys, this was in real time. The withdrawal, she can tell, was in real time. The only thing is she couldn't tell her where this was, because back in the 90s, technology is definitely not where it is today, where we can literally tell you within like 2.5 seconds where the withdrawal was. They had to wait like a full 24 hours. So, I mean, this was still the best lead that they had. So the next day, the teller calls the mom and she's like, hey, this is where the card was used. And the card was used at a convenience store that was only less than 3 miles from the campus. By the way, we're now in day 2, which the dad and the campus police are searching for Susie. Now, I know that that's kind of weird of them not searching the convenience store. But, I mean, if you did like a 5-mile radius, this convenience store would have been there, and they probably would have known that too. So again, we're on March 3rd, and the campus police decide to do a pop-up on her first class for the day. Of course, she's a no-call, no-show once again. And at this point, the mom and dad are like, okay, you know what? Enough is enough. We're going to go ahead and call the state police. So it's been an actual 48 hours, you would think. So I mean, they can go ahead and file it, right? But when it comes to a missing persons case, the first 48 are the actual most crucial point of the investigation. Now, the state police ended up asking the clerk at the convenience store if they remember seeing Susie, and unfortunately they did not, but they still ended up asking for the store footage that they had. Now, for them, they only had one camera, which was actually on the clerk, which was nowhere near the ATM. But they still try to pull prints, but of course that was like a flop because, I mean, how many people actually use the ATM within a day? Let's be real. Like, I mean, it was a good effort, but I mean, to no avail. So they decided to pull all the transactions and from the ATM 30 minutes before and 30 minutes after her transaction. And what they was trying to do was attempt to like kind of track the foot traffic there and kind of like match it to the footage. But honestly, you guys, when they tried to do this, they actually never really saw Susie on the foot. So what they decided to do is try to get all the transactions from the store and the ATM 30 minutes before and 30 minutes after Susie's transaction. This is their attempt to try and just track all the foot traffic. Now, in the footage, they did not see Susie. So this automatically and immediately alarmed Susie's mom because she was like, well, if it wasn't Susie, then who was it? Like, who was using her card? Now, the thing is, at this convenience store, they also sold coffee. So, I mean, she would have at least bought coffee because she's like a coffee addict, like coffee advocate, my kind of girl. But like after the $20, like nothing, just nothing. So also like they also had a question of like why she used this random ATM machine and not the one at the campus. Because near where she lived, there was also an ATM that she used. So again, this is why her mom was like, well, wait a minute. I don't even think this was Susie at all. The state police ended up doing like an elimination kind of method. One by one, they matched everybody's transaction to when they entered and left the store. But there was only one person that they couldn't identify. And it was around the same time Susie's transaction was made. Now, they came up with the sketch, but, I mean, it wasn't reliable. And, I mean, sketches are, like, really hard to go by because any one thing that's off on the sketch, it can look like somebody else. So that's why I don't believe sketches are good. I mean, but what do I know? So, obviously, at this point, you guys, Susie's dad and the campus police and the state police came up with nothing. But in May of that same year, someone walking in the visitors parking lot found Susie's work ID, you guys. Now, to me, I was thinking, like, how did they all miss this back in March? But in the state of New York at that time, it was snowing. So if it was under the snow, of course they missed it. But they also think that someone placed it there because the little buckle on the work ID didn't have no rust from, like, the salt and snow. But the weird part about this, you guys, is that this was Susie's older ID. So I'm guessing she had like 2 or 3 IDs, which when I worked in retail, again, I did have 2 or 3 IDs. But her having this older ID, she would have had it in her purse. So them finding on the ground was kind of weird. So the thing is, what they were thinking now is when she got off the bus, she was either walking towards that parking lot, which, by the way, was away from her dorm room to meet somebody, or she was, like, taking there, and then that's when she disappeared. Now, the one thing that stuck out to me, and I hope this sticks out to everyone else, her boyfriend's mom is also a true crime enthusiast, and I call her a true crime badass. She told Susie at one point in time, because she knew that she was going to be on campus at night by herself at one point, she told her that if someone tries to take you or grab you, make sure that you start dropping personal things as clues. I was like, oh my gosh, this lady's a freaking genius. Duh. So that's why they were thinking, like, also she did this on purpose. But they ended up dusting for prints, which, by the way, this took about 2 months, and they found nothing. So imagine the police frustration at this point. Like, imagine. Of course, the tensions between Richard and Susie's mom and dad and Richard's family were at an all-time high. Richard's mom and dad were obviously backing him up 100%. But for Susie's mom and dad, they thought that like he had something to do with it. And the thing is, like, at this point, he did have an alibi. He was playing video games with his friend, which, by the way, his friend swears that that was him. Now, if you guys play video games, whether it's like on a console or computer, like I play video games with my hubby, and I know the way he plays is kind of like it's like a dance move. You know, everything has a flow, everything has a style. So I can get why his friend said this, and that's why I would believe him. Now, the police did end up checking in on this, and they did roll him out. He was at home playing video games with his friend. Now, Susie's family had a hard time believing this, only because remember in the beginning that I said that he was like persistent when he was like trying to get with Susie in the beginning? Well, I mean, they ended up saying that he was kind of more like controlling and kind of manipulative, because every time she tried to break up with him, he ended up like talking her to like stay with him or like continue the relationship. So after she went missing, he would say that they were engaged, but like Susie never mentioned this. And like, wouldn't you think, like, for me, like when I got engaged, I told the freaking world. But like Susie never mentioned this to her family. So her family was like, what are you talking about, engaged? Are you kidding me? Now, another reason why they were sketched out about him is because during the search, he mentioned that only him and Susie knew the PIN card, like when she was withdrawing the money. So to me, I'm like, wait, why would you even say this? Sus. Also, like, where did this even come from? Like, why would you think that this wouldn't make you look suspect, you know? But at her memorial service, Susie's mom said that he was also acting inappropriate, where he was like laughing and goofing off in the back. And again, like, why would you even do that? Like, your girlfriend is missing and you're like cackling it up with your friends in the back. Like, ew, so disgusting, dude. And I guess apparently because of this, like, he was acting so insensitive, a lot of people started like blaming him for everything that happened. So he ended up stopped cooperating with the investigation. He got a lawyer, and he decided not to take a polygraph test. Now, I don't know which one came first. I don't know if he got a lawyer and the lawyer told him not to take the polygraph test, or he decided not to take the polygraph test, which made him look bad, and then got a lawyer. I don't know. I couldn't find that either. So anyways, now remember that he was like calling all night. Now, why would you call if you were literally trying to get rid of them? So that's why I think he wasn't, or wouldn't be as like the prime suspect as they believe. Because if he was calling all night and the phone was ringing, like the roommate said, all night, then I guess like I get it. But I mean, who says that he was making those phone calls from the house? Like, what if he had that friend made those phone calls from the house? Again, that's just me thinking. I'm just thinking out loud. All right, so you remember, you guys, that I did tell you that they did get like this one person that they couldn't rule out. So they did end up calling him the quote unquote Nike man, because he was wearing a Nike ball cap. So the only good thing that I think he did, the boyfriend Richard did, was he bought a billboard with his family and put Susie on it with like their information and her information and the Nike man information, asking for help like from the public. So I know like that doesn't seem a lot, but 1 year after they put that billboard up, they ended up finding the Nike man, you guys. Now, this guy is super suspect. And the reason why I say this is because at the time that Susie was going to college, he actually worked at that college, you guys. Why they couldn't find him at the time blows my mind. I mean, that's like WTF to me. He was also a past convicted felon for rape and assault. Again, why didn't they find this, and why was he working at this college? For whatever reason that I could not find anywhere, the police did not call him a suspect nor a person of interest in this crime. They ended up interviewing him 6 times, which if a person wasn't a person of interest or like anything about this crime, why would you interview him 6 times? Either you did know something or you just wanted to try and catch him. Either way, you guys, they never released his name. But to me, those like convictions that he had prior, they would be public. So if you do a rule of elimination of like who worked at that university at that time, I would think you would be able to find him. But if this is a huge a huge university, then yeah, I would get why that would take some time, like for me to find, wink, wink. But I mean, I get it. They didn't release his name, but you still interviewed him 6 times. So you still were trying to look for something because you did think he was involved in some way, right? All right, you guys. So now I need you to put your thinking caps on. I'm going to go ahead and take you back a little bit. So just try to follow it with me. So 13 years before Susie went missing, another girl went missing in a similar situation. 22-year-old Karen Wilson, who also lived in the same dorm rooms as Susie, also disappeared in March. Yeah, I know, bonkers. On March 27th, around 7:30, 8 o'clock p.m., she was going to go ahead and head out to like a tanning appointment that she had because she was actually planning to go on vacation. She never made it. She never made it to her appointment, and she never made it back to her dorm room. Now, his MO, he never met the people that he victimized. He never had an interaction with them. And it was like, for him, it was like, whomever, wherever, I want to do it right now. Let's do it. And at the time when he was doing his business, I guess you would call it, not even. I mean, Susie went missing at the same time. So they think that maybe this could have happened to her. And you know what, you guys? His name keeps coming up over and over again in her case because of that reason. Now, his name is Israel Keys. And if you guys want me to go ahead and do a story about him, let me know down in the comments. I did study about him a little bit, and I'm willing to go ahead and do it. But it is pretty graphic, so I just want you guys to be prepared. So anyways, her parents did end up setting up a foundation to help other families and to also get a bill passed that if someone goes missing on campus, they know what policies to do and like who to communicate with and who to contact. So shout out to Susie's parents. Now, Susie's dad did end up passing away, sadly, before he even got to know what happened to Susie. But her mom is still around. And you guys, honestly, we need justice for them. There's a quote that I heard from like another podcast, I believe. And it goes, "People only leave us when we say their name one last time." So I'm going to go ahead and leave you with my quote. Keep them relevant. Don't stop saying their name and keep telling their story. From the time it took you to listen to this YouTube, that's how many people went missing. 1 per minute. All right, you guys, I will see you next time. And don't forget to subscribe and comment.